I rarely say this, but it feels as if the Summer House reunion maybe should have been three parts. Just because it felt really rushed. It felt like we didn't really give a lot of time to certain things. We also didn't get a couple things they put in the teasers, like Andy saying maybe you guys shouldn't be friends about Danielle and Lindsay. And then there was the thing that they teased for this part where Lindsay says that Ciara tried to reach out to Kory. So I felt like they kind of just got through things, didn't really dive in too far, and then just kept it moving. Am I kind of relieved that the season's over? Sure. I did extract some good things from this episode, though. Like, Andy seemed maybe like he actually just wanted to try and make Lindsay and Danielle move on, which is nice. It's nice that he had that desire, that he cared that much. But it was it was rushed. So for the first time in a long time, I'm going to say it kind of could have been three parts. Or maybe they could have cut some other things. I can't think of it now, though. But anyway, should we just get into this or what? Let's do it. Let's just fucking go. Here at She Speaks Bravo, we believe that Bravo TV is a great form of self-care and therapy. I mean, look at me. I've been using it for over a decade, and I'm a complete mess.
What is this, honey?
I love that.
I'm Emily. Every week, I recap the latest episodes of your favorite Bravo shows, from Housewives to Vanderpump Rules.
We need to get more cosmopolitan. Hot-teeny!
So if you're not already subscribed, get subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. So we pick up on page, you're literally nuts. Like, you're fucking nuts too, that whole bit. But then Andy's like, so where's your wedding? Where's it? What's the wedding plans? But the wedding is going to be in Mexico in November. And then Andy goes, will people here be invited? And Carl is pretty open. It seems like Carl has the attitude that I really wish Lindsay would kind of pick up, because I get that Lindsay's been on, I guess it's a little different for Lindsay because she's been like on hyper defense mode every single year against all the girls, and everyone in the house says, we love Carl. We just feel bad that he's with Lindsay. So I guess it's a little different for Lindsay, but Carl's attitude is, to me, very much like, we are going to be the bigger people. We are here to let things go and move forward so that we can all have fun. But Lindsay's not so much. I just got that vibe. She's like, no, we're not forgiving. Lindsay says, whoever supports the relationship will be there. But then, okay, so moving off of that for a second, when we got the Kyle Carl package, it was such a beautiful display of men in friendships and having emotions and talking things through. And Kyle kind of tries to start pleading his case. It felt like that's what Kyle starts this conversation with. He's like, I was feeling taken advantage of too. But Carl steps in immediately and is like, look, we're not blaming Lindsay for me feeling the way I felt about working at Loverboy. And I thought Amanda did an amazing job. She really came in and moderated and said, like, very sensible, logical things. She's like, I've been trying to tell Kyle that, like, when I would come home from work and I would vent and complain, you were only getting my version of the story. So you would give me advice that, someone would give a partner that's like miserable and unhappy. You would say, like, whatever, she was just very, very good at sounding logical. She has shifted this season, I must say. I guess that getting married to Kyle was really what she needed to feel secure, because I was, compared to last year, the way she was at the reunion to this year, and she was actually like, even though she's clearly not Lindsay's friend, she still was like, we're going to be fair about this, Kyle. And then she even says, do you want to apologize for blaming it on Lindsay? I was like, she's checking the boxes. She's figuring out how they're going to come out of this reunion with, like, basically she didn't do anything, quote, wrong. Like, what they've come to find is when they try, or at least Amanda, Paige didn't take this note, but when they try to out Lindsay for this behavior that they claim is very difficult. They usually do something that makes the audience go, well, you don't have to be such a bitch about it. But yeah, so Amanda is giving me the vibe of like, I'm going to come out of this where all of our side of the street can be clean so that maybe we can actually get through to Lindsay. That's the vibe I'm getting, and I don't hate it. I really don't hate it because I like that she is being fair about this. You cannot put that on Lindsay. And then Lindsay herself was like, my advice to him was, no, you don't just quit on your best friend. You go talk to him. So kind of puts your little theory to rest there, doesn't it, Kyle? The coked out moment, though. Whew. Didn't expect to cry as much as I did, but Carl was so emotional and it affected everybody, even Andy. I was like, oh, never mind. At first I was like, I'm not crying yet because I heard people say that they cried and I was like, I'm not, am I dead inside? No, just wait a second. Just wait till Carl like can't even really catch his breath. He's crying so hard. And he doesn't say anything angry out of his mouth. He says that he has said crazy things on camera as well. So he's not going to hold it against Kyle. But then he says after we're not expecting Carl to really be apologizing for anything in this moment. But when he comes out with, I'm sorry altogether, and you guys have really supported me. I'm appreciative of you guys. It was like, okay. And then Andy says it so perfectly. He says, as with friends of mine who have struggled with addiction, nobody carries a greater amount of guilt for what they've done and shame than they do. And it was a beautiful moment of Kyle owning that he fucked up, and he cries, and when he gets up and he hugs Carl and he's like, you don't need that reminder. Oh, it was beautiful. It was a really beautiful moment. Andy asks how it felt when he saw Danielle defend him like that. And Carl says that he did text her to thank her. And the tissues bit, and like, so Lindsay takes a tissue and hands it over to Kyle because she wanted him to give it to Amanda. But Kyle had also been crying, so he wipes his eyes with it. They have a little laugh. Meanwhile, Carl is still being amazing and emoting perfectly. And then Lindsay realizes that Andy needs a tissue. And that's when I fell apart. When the person who never cries is when I'm going to just lose it. Then he admits that this is where I just bawled my face off. Carl admits that, and it takes him a minute to say this, he admits that he would show up drunk to interviews for the confessionals. And drunk, he talked about his brother's heroin addiction, and it really damaged their relationship because he says, this is such a great quote, I harbored a lot of anger towards him because I couldn't come to grips that I also had issues and I was blaming him. But I was the one actually on TV trying to glorify it like I'm this party boy. What amazing reflection. Like that's some work in therapy right there, my friend. Way to go. But then they didn't even talk, and then he passed. And buckets of tears, and then Carl says that he won't harbor that anger because they've been through so much together. He goes, I love you, man. Never change. I cannot. Then they take a break. Like they take a break pretty shortly after that. And as Andy's walking out, I hear Andy goes, Paige clocked in. She doesn't say much, but when she does, it's impactful. The fact that he said Paige clocked in, that says a lot. But also, it's good that he appreciated what she said, but it's like, note that, Paige. You need to start showing up more. But okay, we see Kory and then Lindsay and Carl. This is coming off of what Carl just said, what Carl just did. They talk in their dressing room. And Carl is like, you know what my intention, I want to go back to the Hamptons this summer, have a fun summer before we get married and get past this. And Lindsay says, I'm just going to ignore the barking. The people who matter are the relationships I've had for years. Then she lists you, me, Kyle, Amanda, Danielle. That just sounded so nice. I was like, yeah, well, I get, let me say this too. I really understand people who are Team Paige and all this. I know that the majority of the audience was like, Paige was so mean to Lindsay. But I know a lot of you out there are like, I fucking was here for it. I get it. I don't know why I still like Paige either, but I do. And it's odd because she is such a bitch, but I enjoy her and I like see her points. I think she can be a good friend. She seems to show up for her friends like kind of ride or die. So I do get it. I don't really fall on either team. I'm just kind of explaining what I see. And if they were to get rid of Ciara, Paige, and Maya, this group could maybe have an actual chance of being bonded and have a nicer experience. Because they'll still fight. They'll still be going through their stuff. But that element really creates a super toxic feeling to the house where it's just like, God, you guys hate each other. Like, I don't want to watch this every week. Okay. So, I mean, I don't want anyone to lose a job, but I did think that was interesting. The way I felt when Lindsay said that list of people. And I was like, ooh, that sounds nice. What if I could be down for that. I just can't do another they just tolerate each other over the summer because they don't tolerate each other. They actively dislike each other. Amanda's like, how do we move on as a group? Like, are we just going to keep like hating each other? And Kyle, he's like, the only way this group can rebuild anything is if they get things off their chest. Nice in theory. And I really read it more like he goes, let's make this a really good fucking reunion because we are on the verge of getting canceled. Or a lot of us are at risk of getting fired. Support for today's episode comes from Jenny Kane, and it is perfect timing because summer's basically here and my wardrobe needs a refresh, to say the least. I love Jenny Kane's very like California Jennifer Aniston, effortless minimalist style. Because they've got those summer staples that will make getting dressed so much easier for even someone like me who is very fashion challenged. They've also got incredible home essentials. Jenny Kane is just here to help you live your best summer yet, okay? For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order when you go to jennykane.com and use code SHESPEAKS. Get that 15% off. It makes a huge difference. In every season, it's important to have those good staples, but especially summer because you need to have like the item, like they have this day dress that's quickly becoming my fave day to day. I always get compliments, always ask, where'd you get that? And I'm like, Jenny Kane, use my code, get 15% off. As much as Jenny Kane is kind of known for like their cashmere sweaters, trust me, they do summer cotton better than anybody. And you also need a good little light sweater for summer too, like I like the Chloe cardigan for when I'm on my boat. The cotton fisherman sweater is a good bestseller one too. Everything in their collection is designed so intentionally because they want you to style pieces together without really thinking about it. I love to pair a Jenny Kane dress with one of their classic sweaters for a look that's just so effortless and put together. Put together is what it is. That's what people say. You look so put together. But seriously, their home essentials are to die. They have timeless furniture pieces, cozy throws, perfectly curated decor. And the candles. Oh my God. I keep one in every room. Plus, they have an incredible rewards program so you can earn 10% back with every purchase, and joining is completely free. So find your forever pieces at jennykane.com. Our listeners get 15% off their first order when you use code SHESPEAKS at checkout. So you get 15% off your order when you go to jennykane.com, and that's spelled JENNIKAYNE.com. Promo code SHESPEAKS for that 15% off. Let getting dressed be one less thing you got to worry about. The Kory and Sam segment's cute. I don't really care. And then they talk very briefly. They do a little pack. Again, this is a very rushed feel that I'm getting. They talk a little bit about Paige being afraid of commitment with Craig. And Paige just says, well, no one talks about how like scary it is to grow up. And I've only lived in New York and I'm very close to my family. But I do want to raise kids, not like in the city, so Charleston. And Andy kind of presses just a little bit more. And she's like, no. And then I think even Amanda kind of chimes in like, it'll be okay. And so they just move on. They just move it right along. So, okay, thanks. Then we get the Maya and Oliver package. What a dirty dog. And it was 11 women that she's found out about. 11. And then Paige goes, I don't mean to say brothel, but that's a brothel. And they laugh. And there's always these moments where you're like, oh, they could do it, but I don't want another season of it. But Maya didn't even tell Ciara for a month after filming. So Maya kept this real close to the chest. Real close to the chest. Danielle, oh, I forgot that Danielle's the one who introduced them. Andy says, are you still friends with him? And Danielle says, absolutely not. I cursed the day he was born. Well done. And then Chris goes, I did slide into Maya's DMs and asked when I should bring over the pancakes. And then he goes, see, Andy, I don't always struggle. There you go. You had a good moment there, Chris. I'll give it to you. I don't need to see Maya again next season, though. I really don't. Not if she's going to be telling cameras to not capture what's going on when she finally has something super interesting and personal about herself. I'm like, I don't like that. But now we move on to the Danielle and Robert package. She says that the relationship was normal this summer. And I was like, wait, what? But then when she explains that it ended because I wanted to see him more. And he said, well, I'm going to continue going to Aspen and not work on this. So it was her saying this summer was how it always has been. That's the relationship, no matter what she does. That's how the relationship is going to go. And finally, I said, this isn't fun for me. And so I ended it. Because he also didn't make it clear that he wanted to end it. And Andy asks if she felt she was projecting her relationship issues onto Lindsay and Carl. And Danielle says no. Lindsay says that she's done a lot of reflecting and deep diving, and there was projection involved. And so Danielle goes, what was I projecting? And Lindsay goes, oh, there was a lot, Danielle. And she says, I think you were scared to lose your friend. And Kyle interrupts and says it has nothing to do with Robert. And Kyle's like, both you and Carl in your confessional said the reason that she thinks we're moving too fast is because she's jealous of our relationship, or whatever words you chose to use. And Kyle, turns out he called Robert because I guess they had some business thing they were doing. And he asked, what was going on with you and Danielle? It was normal speed bumps, but whatever was happening between Danielle and the three amigos, it had nothing to do with the relationship with me. And Kyle, I like that Kyle was really coming to Danielle's defense. That was really nice because that's more of a core person, right? Like Paige and them chiming in, just be quiet. But Kyle coming in means something, in my opinion. It has weight. And because Kyle's like, I think you guys need to know that because both of you just chalked it up to being a huge part of that. Then Carl says, I also saw Robert recently. And Danielle didn't know that because Robert says he felt bad for how it ended over the summer. That's not good. That's not good because he was standing up for Danielle. And now he's like, I just wanted to say, now that we're broken up, sorry about how it ended. It almost feels like he was like, that fucking Danielle, she was so difficult making me do stuff. But now we're cool, right? Meanwhile, Danielle still hasn't spoken to them. So that would hurt my feelings too. Carl was like, I was happy to get on the same page. Andy goes, because he knows what question to ask. He says, did you contact Danielle when they broke up? And Carl says, I did not. Then Danielle, of course, has every right to be like, but you're okay to meet up with my ex-boyfriend. And Carl looks kind of stunned. And he says, he reached out last week, so we got together. Meaning, Robert came to me. I didn't go to him. Andy then asks Lindsay if she reached out to Danielle when they broke up. Lindsay says, no, Lindsay gets very PR spinny in this moment. She goes, no, I mean, I wasn't sure if it was even confirmed. And then you were in Aspen, so I thought you might be possibly working it out. So I was just not very sure what was going on. Well, if it's being reported and you know that it's a possibility, maybe reaching out would have been a good idea. Danielle goes, yeah, nor did you care. Andy says, hey, did any other cast members reach out? And, oh, Danielle says, every single one. Oh, fuck. You could see Carl like kind of shrink, like, God damn it. Fuck, we were reaching out? I didn't know that. Andy asks, Carl comes to his own defense. He says it was a tough spot for them to be in, but he's sorry for not reaching out. Then Lindsay goes, because Lindsay's not following Carl's lead at all. He'll say something like that, and then she goes, and you also could have been like, I need you. What the fuck? No, she didn't need to do that. Danielle says, finally, she goes, I had realized over the summer that our friendship was very one-sided. I'm like, there we go. We're at the meat of it. Now we get into the full Lindsay Danielle. It's what I was about to say. Lindsay Danielle package. Andy asks when Danielle thinks things started to change. And Danielle knows it's when she said, you're moving too fast to Paige. But then she explains that she said, I was concerned. I wanted to make sure that careers were taken care of, finances were in order, sobriety was good. Is that totally her business? Well, yeah, actually, it fucking is. Actually, she knows both of them. I think I genuinely think if they had just addressed it and said, okay, yeah, maybe we are moving a little fast, but it doesn't feel fast. It feels right. And we're good. Then Danielle would have said, okay, cool. But she still had a problem with Lindsay not being there for her. That was still an issue. And Lindsay keeps ignoring that completely forgetting about that. Andy's like, okay, we're going to try this. So he's like, so Lindsay, it sounds like her concerns are concerns of like a best friend, like why not just talk about those concerns? And Lindsay says, they're clear now, but they were not clear this summer. Not incorrect, not totally incorrect, but I have to also say that's actually, I take it back. That's not correct. That's actually really not correct because Danielle and Lindsay talked about it at that party, the same party where Paige was all messy and told Lindsay everything she said. Danielle says it to her face, like, I'm just concerned X, Y, and Z. So I take that back. That is not, Lindsay, you're incorrect there. You just didn't want to hear her because and that's what Danielle says afterwards. All you heard was me being critical about your relationship, and I was discarded from the jump. Facts. As soon as she said anything, it's like, wait, you did say that to Paige? What are we doing wrong? I don't get it. And like, that's it. Forget it. Done. Danielle's like, was the real problem that I heard it from Paige, who you don't like and she doesn't like? And Lindsay's like, no, it's that I heard it from anyone else but you. And Danielle's like, no, I want to really push this. She's like, was it these girls specifically? Because if I'd said it to Sam or Gabby, you wouldn't have the same reaction. And Andy's like, isn't that a fair thing? And I felt the same way. I was like, yeah, if you go to like my nemesis and say something that's different than going to a neutral person, that's fair. I would not have the same reaction. That's like totally fair. But then Danielle explains it. And I'm kind of understanding her. She says that she's trying to have relationships with everybody and she's trying to be open with everybody. Fair, because if they're going to basically ditch Danielle, Lindsay and Carl basically ditched Danielle as soon as the summer started. And she had no one else to hang out with. So she's like, well, I'm going to hang out with these people then. But she says it's not my job to have the same enemies as you do. And of course, Paige is like, Danielle was never allowed to be friends with us. And then she became friends with us. And that was the problem. I'm like, that's not 100% it. Because here's my question. Why does Danielle have to talk about Carl and Lindsay with them to have a friendship? You know what I mean? I'm sure they talked about more stuff. But it's like, if if you're going to be friends with Lindsay now and maintain these friendships with them, I hope that she can trust that you're not going to go tell everything she says to them. Like it, if like, look at Ariana. Ariana is the queen of being stuck in the middle in that group of friends on Vanderpump Rules. And she doesn't go do shit like that. She stays very loyal, very, very loyal and very neutral. So if Danielle's trying to be that person in the group, take a page from Ariana's book, because saying things specifically about the relationship to the people that criticize it the most and criticize her the most is it's not great, you know? Okay, but then I think Andy gets real down and dirty here, and I liked it. He says, why did it upset Lindsay to hear that? Like, Danielle just said you were moving too fast. And it's true, that's not really that horrible a thing, right? I thought Lindsay was going to say, look, it's not really that big of a deal. It's just that I was shocked she was saying it to those people. And then it kind of just kept piling on. But instead, she just gets very defensive. And she goes, because she moved in with her boyfriend after knowing him for 2 months. And I thought that was very hypocritical. And then B, moving too fast. This is a guy I've known for 7 years. We've been through so much together. It's like, okay, never mind. You just want her to take it back. She just needs Danielle to take it back. That's all she's going to be happy about, is if Danielle says, okay, I didn't mean it. You weren't moving too fast. I was wrong. That's like all she wants to hear. Because the point is, it doesn't matter really at the end of the day. If it hadn't gotten so clouded with the rest of this, it's like, oh, well, she said you were moving too fast. Like, who fucking cares? Because then Danielle goes, Lindsay, who do you think you're talking to when you say all of this? Like, we've known each other for 7 years. We've been through so much together. And she's like, who do you think you're talking to right now? And Lindsay goes, well, what did you expect me to do? Move out? Like, we just moved in. I'm going to move out because you don't want us to live together? No, actually, not at all. Because if you're not moving too fast and you've actually got your head on straight about it, it could be not that crazy for her to be like, uh-oh, you're moving a little fast. And you go, I know we're moving fast, but we've known each other for 7 years. It's that you're so defensive over any type of criticism. That's kind of what it's like, ooh. Because Danielle's like, I didn't want you to move out. I just wanted to have an open conversation. On camera? Is that what you're wanting to do? I don't blame you, though. It's not fair that Lindsay got away with not showing her real relationship. I get why they didn't, but it's also not fair. Gabby then chimes in, and I was so fucking confused with what she did here, because they literally already said this. She goes, I think the issue is she heard it from someone who is not you, the first time. We already said that. We literally already said that. I don't know. I didn't know I couldn't tell what side Gabby was on exactly. Maybe she was neutral. I couldn't tell if she was totally on Lindsay's side or totally on Danielle's side in this. But viewer question for Lindsay. Were you really just upset that Danielle wasn't playing the role of your supportive best friend anymore and instead talking to the ops? Paige loved this. She just loved being called the ops. I don't know why, but she loved it. Lindsay's answer's kind of fair. She's like, because she wasn't playing a role of my friend. This was a mutual friendship for years. Fair. Now we get to this. Andy asks if Carl regrets not telling Danielle about the engagement. And he goes through it, and then Lindsay comes in and reminds everyone that Danielle screamed into a pillow when he told her he was ring shopping. Carl goes, Danielle, at any point in that conversation, did you ask to help plan something? And then Danielle's like, really? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? And Andy's, because he's being a good mediator, he's like, well, hold on. That's fair, Danielle. But then Gabby says something under her breath, and I can't fully tell what it is. She says, well, that's a big assumption. I think I'm going to guess what she's meaning is, well, Danielle wouldn't say, can I help plan a thing? I think that's I think she's backing up Danielle here, and I'm going to go with that. But Danielle was like, I don't have any disdain for the relationship. When I screamed into the pillow, it was just me trying to get through to him. I was just frustrated that we had got to this point. Do you think I really don't want you to be happy? Do you really think that? Carl is hyper about this one, though. He's upset. For him, it is so clear that he just wanted to execute this proposal perfectly. He needed it to go perfectly. And to find out, because he was so proud of himself for doing it, to find out that it ended up messing up this friendship forever, it's like freaking him out. He says he felt bad looking back. And then Lindsay goes, yeah, looking back, please, next time include her. We should redo this proposal. Okay, girl. So got it. Cool. You're not going to have, there's no space for any of her feelings left. If I've had I've had many friendships, even shorter lived friendships, that if there's an issue, I can pretty much talk through it, even if I end up having to kind of eat shit a little bit. And Lindsay is not interested in doing that at all. Carl is very hyped up. He's like, his veins are popping out of his head. He's so frustrated. He says there's plenty of proposals that happen without the friend being involved. And I feel like that was a line Lindsay has said before, or fans have said online. It just didn't feel like something that Carl originally thought. But Kyle goes, it's different. Okay, you share a house. And Carl's thing is like, he didn't want to spoil the surprise. He wanted it to be special for them. And I didn't tell any of the girls in the house. And Andy does a good job chiming in here and there, being like, well, she's not just a girl of the house. And then if Danielle says something a little off, he'd be like, well, hold on. So he did a good job of being fair and seeing both sides equally, because he genuinely was trying to get this back on track. And I loved it. And Danielle's like, okay, you don't think I can keep a secret? What am I, 5? And Lindsay goes, you acted like it this summer. She's going for it. She's like name calling now. She's pretty savage in this. A lot of us learned how to avoid getting pregnant and spent whatever those years were where you didn't want to be pregnant, avoiding it at all costs. But what about planning for getting pregnant? What if you think maybe one day I do want kids? Are you prepared? Do you have the knowledge that you should going into this? That is where modern fertility comes in. It is an easy and affordable way to test your fertility hormones at home with a single finger prick. You just mail it in with a prepaid label and you'll get your personalized results within 6 business days. You get insight into your hormone levels, like your ovarian reserve. You've probably heard of it. Remember when Lindsay on Summer House went to get her eggs checked and she had 25-year-old ovaries? There's other important factors too that affect your fertility, and the results go deep into what every hormone means. And you can also download the results to bring into your doctor to discuss next steps. I love that. And traditional hormone testing sounds so intimidating to me. You got to go somewhere, you got to spend like $600 or more. Modern fertility tests the exact same general set of hormones for only $179. And if you go to modernfertility.com/shespeaks, you can get $20 off your test. Plus, you can get reimbursed for the test through your FSA or HSA. If you want kids today or maybe one day in the future, clinically sound info about your body can help you make the decision that's right for you. Just get tested, see what's going on there. We saw what happened with Ciara on Summer House. She's young and she learned early. She may have some challenges. So right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $20 off the test when you go to modernfertility.com/shespeaks. That means your test will only cost you $159, which is a fraction of what it would cost at a fertility clinic. Get $20 off your fertility test when you go to modernfertility.com/shespeaks. modernfertility.com/shespeaks.
Wait, what?
I was dealing with thinning hair, very bad shedding. 1 in 2 women apparently deal with it, which is crazy. That's like all women, basically. And if you're among them, you're not alone. Nutrafol is here for us because they address the issue from within with science-backed supplements. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve visible thickness and strength. And I can attest to that. From postpartum to menopause, and no matter your life stage, Nutrafol has 4 unique formulas to support women. Each is physician formulated using drug-free, science-backed ingredients so you get the most reliable results. Go to Nutrafol.com to take their hair health wellness quiz. I love a quiz. You can identify the causes of your thinning hair. Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair growth through their whole body health approach. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting root causes of thinning, which is stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, metabolism. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol's Women Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code SheSpeaks. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code SheSpeaks. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code SheSpeaks. Carl is now, he's so hyped up. He's like, I was in the hospital for 2 days before I proposed. I had a lot on my plate. He's like, this is my fucking engagement. I want to make it special. I'm sorry you weren't included, but guess what? Not everybody's included in someone's proposal. I just don't know how Danielle didn't see him acting this way and kind of go, okay, I can tell like it wasn't on purpose. Because she kind of just keeps doubling down here, being like, it's just that you don't give a shit about me. And it's like, they're going to, of course, it has nothing to do with you. Carl like stands up even to demonstrate that it wasn't intentional. He wasn't like looking at his phone. Like, I'm not going to tell her I did this for Lindsay and me. The bottom line is Danielle has realized that they don't care about her as much as she cares about them. And so unfortunately, there's almost like no conversation. When you have that realization, there's nothing they can say. It's like, no, I've just realized what it is. And now I have to adjust, but they are at a reunion, so they have to talk about it. Andy asks if there's anything Danielle would change about her behavior at the engagement party. So she starts off with a joke and says she would have changed her outfit, she would have not have drank so much, and she would have talked to less people. Danielle, I'm trying to get on board here. She said, I just envisioned myself being a part of the planning. And she was just hurt. And then, of course, when she talks about, Andy's like, you didn't think they were going to see you talking to all those people? She's like, I thought I was like hidden. I thought I was like in the crowd. Danielle says to Lindsay, do you really think in 1 million years I would make your engagement party about me? I'm like, but you're going to, but like it's like, what happened? And like, that's like, what happened? Lindsay's like, you did. And Danielle's like, well, if that's how you feel, Lindsay, and you could tell from the way Danielle starts this that she's genuinely going to issue an apology because she can put her pride aside and do that. But Lindsay interrupts and she goes, it's not how I feel, it's what happened. Okay, but Danielle ignores that. She still powers through. She gives a good, sincere apology and says she's super sorry for that. And I don't want you to think that I've never wanted to be in support of you guys. You know that I would only want your happiness. And Andy's like, yes, we have an apology. Do you accept that? And Carl clearly accepts it. He's like, abso-fucking-lutely. Like, he's like, yes, this is totally it. And Lindsay's like, yeah, I can accept that. She's totally not there. Andy is already, by the way, asked at one point at the very top of this whole segment, he asked Lindsay if, as her friend, knowing what you know, do you at least maybe understand why her feelings were hurt? And Lindsay proudly went, no. Now that all this time has shifted, or not that all this time has shifted, now that everything has shifted and Carl is clearly like, yeah, no, we're good with Danielle. Andy asked the exact same question again. Do you now understand like why her feelings were hurt? Maybe she says, of course. I mean, I can understand why her feelings would be hurt. I would also want to be a part of one of my best friend's big monumental milestone occasions. And Andy goes, great. And then Lindsay goes, and then Andy goes, period. As in like, stop there for fuck's sake. Like, just give her a little bit of understanding that she had some feelings. And then Lindsay just goes, sure. She's not getting over any of this. It's official. Because he asks about that final fight. I did not recap that final episode. And I had such a hard time with the way Lindsay had shut down. And I know I've seen people say that, like, what did you expect her to do? You get mad at her, she yells. You don't, you don't appreciate when she's activated, so that's why she's calm or whatever. I just couldn't fix my face to look at a friend like that. I couldn't. Lindsay clearly was done with the friendship and wasn't sad. She wasn't sad. Lindsay's not sad. She got what she wanted. She needed a man. She needed to fall in love. That's all she fucking cares about. And she just dropped Danielle when it got rough. And if I'm in a friendship with someone, I would never look at them the way Lindsay looked at them, unless they did something so fucking terrible. Granted, I think that with the Lindsay stans, they all really, really, really care about engagements and marriage and stuff. And I just don't. So I could forgive that in my head. But if you're someone who like really, really, really loves the idea of getting engaged and getting a fabulous wedding and all that stuff, I think that you really don't, you could not see Lindsay forgiving Danielle for that. So I think maybe I just don't understand that aspect of it. Like, Danielle was clearly just upset about the friendship, and Lindsay's so just concerned with the fact that she said a few different times, I thought you guys were moving too fast, but whatever. So I felt when I watched that scene, I could not believe it. I could not believe the way she was talking to her. It's like, this is the only time anything's ever happened to Danielle or to Lindsay with Danielle. And she just was so willing to, the face she had was like, the attitude, everything. Like, I could not fix my face to talk to a friend like that. That was just so fucking cold. It's giving me shivers. Here's also the problem. I would end up in a toxic friendship with someone like Lindsay. Not anymore. I've moved beyond it, but there was a point in time where Lindsay was a friend I had, and I had a friend talk to me like that, and it's just so heartless. So I'm very triggered by this show. Friendship breakups are my number one like issue, and well, no, so are relationships, but that's like, I had so many tough female friendships because of my bad relationship with my mother. I would emulate those sorts of dynamics with my mom, with friends, and I would end up really hurt, really taken advantage of, really kind of verbally abused at times. And then when I would put my foot down, they would go so cold. And it just like, Lindsay was that person again. So please don't come for me too hard for saying this. That was my feeling that I had personally. I come with a lot of baggage, so it's probably just a me thing. We don't need to debate this too much because it doesn't matter. The season's fucking over. Okay. But that was how I experienced it. So when Lindsay said she did not regret anything, when Danielle's like, you said we've never been friends. We didn't hear that part, but Kyle is, I'm with Kyle. And he's like, you were the coldest, most emotionless person I've ever seen. Like, you just dropped her like a mic drop. And Lindsay starts to do her thing where she's like, the way the summer went for me was that, and Kyle says, stop. Like, he interrupts and he says, what she's doing all of these things, talking all this shit. Like, all she said was, you guys might have been rushing things. And then Lindsay says, how can you possibly try to bridge a gap when you have no intention of seeing my perspective? I had had enough. I had heard enough. I'd been through enough. Kyle's like, okay, but what did she do that was so bad? Lindsay, did you see the engagement? That's it. That was it. So they all back her up and just say she was hurt, like Danielle. They're like, she was hurt. That was because of things that happened. It wasn't like it was intentional to be mean. And Lindsay goes, and guess what? By the time that conversation came, I also was hurt by all the things I had heard she said about me, she said about Carl, and our relationship this summer. I really do think that production was kind of stepping in here a little bit and saying things they shouldn't have said. I think only one time did we see Paige straight up say what Danielle said. If that's all she's talking about, if that's the only thing Lindsay's saying, she kept talking about me and Carl, that's not fair because Danielle addressed it to your face and you had a conversation. So the other stuff I'm assuming is production maybe was like, we did film a scene where they were talking about this and that with your relationship because maybe they wanted to follow up or something. So I think that production maybe got involved and got a little messy. And then, so she's like, so I shut down. Like when I'm hurt, I shut down. And Carl says, so you're admitting that you discarded the relationship. And Lindsay says, by that point, yes. So Kyle, then he's trying. He says, Lindsay, I'd hoped you would take this opportunity to say that you did have regrets about that last conversation because it was so cold. It was so hard to watch as friends of you guys. And Lindsay says, mad. She goes, she didn't have any regrets about making our entire engagement about her. And it's so absurd because they just covered it and Andy gets involved and he looks exhausted. He's done with Lindsay. He goes, and you said you understood why her feelings are hurt. So what's the problem? And she goes, she apologized for talking to too many people. She really thinks she's got such a stand here. But Andy goes, then she apologized for her behavior at the party. He is so frustrated. He's like, what is happening? It's not that big of a fucking deal. Ciara says, now Ciara's getting involved. She's like, she did apologize and maybe you just didn't want to hear her, but this was your best friend. She gets real dramatic. Ciara puts her whole heart in this one. This was your best friend, Lindsay. Lindsay goes, oh, Ciara, like you care. I was like, there you go. I want to see more of that, Lindsay, talking to them. I need Lindsay to get that bitchy side of her. It finally came out and was honest. But then Ciara goes, I don't give a fuck about you, but I do care about Danielle. And Lindsay goes, at least you finally admitted it. And Ciara says, yeah, because nobody will, right? Because you won't, bitch. This is an exchange. So much more interesting to watch them just fight, though, than to make them existing in a house all bored, all boring. We're cool, right? We're cool. Yeah. It's like, no, you're not. We can feel you're not. So yeah, just yell at each other. This is fun. Andy asks Lindsay if she thinks Danielle had bad intentions for her and Carl. Lindsay says no. Andy asks if she thinks Danielle supports the relationship. Lindsay says, I still don't know. To be honest, I still don't know. But Carl is like, no. Yes, I do think that. He's like, I can't do this anymore. He's like, she's just totally shown that she does care about us and supports us. And Lindsay goes, I'm still trying to figure out what the deep-rooted issue is. Okay, but she's already told you the issue is that you weren't checking in on her at all as a friend. That was the issue. But then Andy comes through and says, because he's so exhausted, he says a line that is just, it's so, so good. It's not a line, I'm sorry. He gives a speech. He gives an amazing speech, right? Right. Danielle has some sense, but Lindsay, will you please? So Danielle reiterates that she's never had a problem with their relationship. But she's had a problem with Lindsay being missing from her life. She does say, she's like, I missed you and I'm sure you miss me too. But Lindsay's like, no, she's not going to give it to her. She's not going to give it to her. Lindsay gives the fakest speech. It's very much a PR thing. She's like, we have a great bond and I am hopeful that we can find a version of that after this. I'm like, oh, you don't mean that even a little bit. Andy asks Kyle how he feels about next summer. Kyle's like, well, I'm optimistic. And hey, nobody has to be best friends. They just have to party together. So please don't cancel the show. And then Kyle leads them in a group cheers. And it's that this group always figures out how to have a good time, right? I will just, we'll always send it. All right. Please don't cancel. Later that night, they show later that night, Carl texted Andy that he got Danielle and Lindsay at a dinner together. The text is this: I wanted to share a live update. Got Lindsay and Danielle at dinner. We'll keep things moving along. We'll keep helping things along. What a day. Thanks again for your guidance and support. Appreciate all that you do. Good text to Andy. Well done. Nice one. Nice one for sure. So I'm not very hopeful though, because I don't think Lindsay is going to make any space for Danielle, because now she's on the path to getting married and she's going to be planning that. And she's always going to feel like Danielle doesn't really want to do that because Danielle said that they might've been moving too fast and that's all it took. And Lindsay's like, how dare you? Don't ever talk about the love of my life like that. I am never going to talk to you again. It'll never be the same. So yes, don't get me wrong. The engagement party, absolutely. Danielle deserved. She needed to apologize. But so yeah, okay. Overall, I thought Andy really delivered in ways that he doesn't normally, in terms of mediating and being equally on both sides. But I also feel like this was very rushed. But maybe it's because the season sucked. But he kind of I guess he does that with all Summer House reunions. They all feel like he's like, all right, I'm just here. I watched the Cliff Notes before I came into this. But I thought he had a couple good monologues. Is it about Andy? No. But the new guys, they had their segments, but man, they kept quiet. They knew their place, so that was good. Except for Gabby. Gabby chimed in. The more I think about it, the more I'm realizing she absolutely was on both sides. She was neutral. I'm just, again, glad the season's over, but if they don't do a major cast shakeup, I don't want to watch. I really like the idea of going back to the core, because although what's Amanda going to do? It's going to be so difficult for her. You know what it's going to be like? It's going to be like, when Tamra and Vicky were let go and Shannon was all hanging out with Kelly Dodd because they were still filming the show together. And Tamra thought that was like a betrayal. And so Amanda's going to be like, well, if they did do the core cast this summer, actually, any minute, actually. Oh my God, it's June. Dude, they got to start filming. Ooh. What are they going to do? God, no wonder Kyle was like pitching like, hey, don't cancel us. Ooh. Oh, but yeah, unless we get a shakeup, how's Amanda going to handle that? Who knows? There's like a spin-off show they should do with just like them in the city. I find that to be much more interesting. The concept of Summer House is a little tired now. Like, this group of friends doesn't need to keep driving up to the Hamptons every summer or every weekend to have this like fake bond. What worked before was it was a group of friends. They had issues though. They had issues from day one. But it's gotten so off track now. Maybe because the show's so much bigger. That has a lot to do with it. As the show gets bigger, more interviews are done and more things are happening. Once like the fame comes with it, I think it changes a dynamic. But they're like on two different shows. The Paige crew, they're like on a totally different show than the rest. And I miss Kyle, Carl, Lindsay, Danielle, and Amanda. I do. I miss that. So whatever. No one listens to me over at Bravo anyway. Anywho, I hope you guys have been well. And FYI, guys, before I go, if you made it this far, I'm going to be skipping Atlanta and Martha's Vineyard this week. The Atlanta episode was just so lame. Like, come on now. So I'm skipping it this week. Kendrick and I will pick it up next week. And Martha's Vineyard, I'll double up a little bit and touch on it. Because Martha's Vineyard was good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. But yeah, skipping it this week because I just got to get moved in. Hopefully by next Monday, I'm all moved in. Hopefully. It's a slow little process because also I've got my dad whose health is not great. So I have to help him more than one would generally. Anyways, love you guys. Mean it. See you next time. Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, would you mind leaving me a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you are listening? If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget there's the super thanks option down at the bottom, the little button with the $ and the heart. And also I'm on buymeacoffee.com/SheSpeaksBravo if you want to buy me a little coffee or 2 or 5. And my Patreon, that is where I'm covering all of the classic Bravo jams. If you want to follow me over there and subscribe, link is in the description. And follow me on Instagram and TikTok at She Speaks Bravo. And whoever the guest was for today, all their information is always in the episode description. So if you want to follow them and check them out, check there for the info. And any of the sponsor codes that I mentioned in this episode will also be in the description. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.